What's up guys, it's me Dan Rob, and in today's video, as you can see, I've got all my Diary of a Wimpy Kid books lined up, which means I'm going to be doing a review of all the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, here we have the first book, Diary of a Wimpy Kid. This was released in, I think, 2007, I'm not sure. That might have been the movie. But yeah, I really like this book. It's about a kid called Greg Heffley who's just starting his journey through middle school, and he's basically one of the unpopular kids because I think he only has one main friend that we see constantly throughout the books and movies, and that is Rowley Jefferson. They're kind of like opposites in a way, because Greg tries to act cool in front of other people, whereas Rowley, he doesn't care what other people think of him. He just does what he does and minds his own business. But yeah, Greg's older brother Roderick picks on him a lot. They don't really get along until the second book, I think. They get along briefly in the second book. But yeah, this is an amazing book, and I just have a lot of fun reading it. One of my favourite book series. So yeah, that's the first book. Now on to the second one. Okay, the next book, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules. It's where Greg and Roderick have been bickering so much, and their mum is just sick of it. So she decides to work on some sort of plan of action to get Greg and Roderick to hang out more and get along more. So she comes up with mum bucks, where for example, like when Greg and Roderick get along, they get something they call mum bucks, which they can then trade in for real money. They can cash it in for real money. And this is one of my favourite books in the series, because Greg and Roderick, they seem to get along fine in this. They even throw a party while the parents are away, but that does kind of backfire on them in the end. But yeah, that's the storyline of this. It's basically Greg and Roderick trying to get along and trying to keep their parents from knowing that they had a party. It's one of the funniest books, I have to say. And yeah, that was that book. On to the next one. Okay, the next one, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw. I'll admit I don't really remember much about this book, so I'm just going to have to read off the back. So yeah, just bear with me for a moment. You know how you're supposed to come up with a list of resolutions at the beginning of the year to try to make yourself a better person? Well, the problem is it's not easy for Greg to think of ways to improve himself, because he's pretty much one of the best people he knows. But Greg's dad has other ideas. He wants Greg to change his wimpy ways, toughen up, and enlist in other manly endeavours. And when he threatens to send Greg to military academy, Greg realises he has to shape up or get shipped out. So there you go. Greg has to toughen up, or his dad will send him to military academy. That does kind of refresh my memory a bit on this book, because I remember some of it from the Dog Days movie, which I will review the next book. So yeah, that was Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw. Now on to the next book. Now, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dog Days. This was a really good book in the series. It's Greg is trying to find a good way to spend his summer holiday, and his dad bans all TV and video games and all electronic stuff for the rest of the summer. So Greg has to he goes to this country club with his friend Rowley, but he's got to find a way of getting in because he's not a member, so he needs to get in without being a member. So Rowley keeps sneaking him in, and Roderick finds out, and then he wants a piece of the action. So then Rowley's trying to sneak Greg in, and Greg's trying to sneak Roderick in. I think by the end of the book, Greg and his dad do spend some time together, and it just works out okay for both of them. They all enjoy the summer, and that was that. Again, it's one of the best books in the series, and I just have a lot of fun reading the whole series. So, yeah, that was Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Dog Days. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Ugly Truth. Again, I don't remember much about this book, but I've just read what it says on the back cover, and I think it's mostly about Greg having to deal with the pressures of the change, if you know what I mean. And then he gets into an argument with his friend Rowley, so he basically has to deal with all the confusion and everything by himself. Again, I don't remember much about this book, but I remember it being a fun book. I remember that. I haven't read this book for a long time, I'll admit, so I'm going to have to leave it there for this book. But that was Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Ugly Truth. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Cabin Fever. As you can see, it's snowing on the cover there, so it's Christmas. And Greg is trying to behave, basically, because there's sort of like an elf on the shelf being introduced into this book, and it really creeps Greg out because Greg thinks that the elf sees everything, and he worries about like what he's going to do. He's worried about if he's going to be able to behave or whatever. But yeah, that is basically the setting for this book. So there we have Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Cabin Fever. And now the final book of my Diary of a Wimpy Kid book review part 1. I'm going to have to do part 2 tomorrow or something because there's too many books to do in one whole video. Here we go. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Third Wheel. Greg's friend Rowley's got himself a girlfriend. I think, yeah, that's it. So Greg has to, he's basically third wheeling between his friend and his friend's girlfriend because he's jealous that she's basically taken Rowley away from him. And that's it. I think the start of the book, it's basically him thinking about like when he was born. So like he remembers when he was born and all the sleep he must have caught upon because he's in middle school, so he won't be getting much sleep, will he? So yeah, that is basically the backstory for Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Third Wheel. And that's it for my Diary of a Wimpy Kid book review, part 1. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for my Diary of a Wimpy Kid book review, part 2, where I will be going through and giving my opinion on the next 7 Diary of a Wimpy Kid books. I've gone through 7 in this video, and I'll go through the next 7 in another video which will possibly be up tomorrow. So stay tuned. If you like what you've seen today, I'm going to be doing a lot more of book reviews and movie reviews and stuff like that, amongst rapping, drumming, music lessons, the occasional singing as well. So if you like what you've seen and you want to see more, then consider subscribing, because when you subscribe and click the bell icon, you'll be notified of whenever I post any more awesome content like what you've just seen, so you'll never miss another Damn Rob video again. But that's all for today. Tune in tomorrow for my next Diary of a Wimpy Kid book review. Latest potatoes. Make sure you leave a like on this video and also subscribe to the channel for more awesome content like what you've just seen.